Happening now, many Port Arthur families are still struggling to recover from Harvey. Some say a nonprofit called Help I'm Hurting is causing them added pain.
Yeah, the group received monetary donations and supplies to help Harvey victims rebuild. But tonight, many of those who registered for aid tell us they're still waiting. KFDM's Angel San Juan is investigating and joins us in the studio. And Angel, how did this come to your attention?
Well, guys, it was the summer of last year when the group Help I'm Hurting tried to become the official long-term recovery group for Jefferson County. But two commissioners, Michael Senegal and Bo Alfred, raised objections. They said they'd heard some of the group's board members were resigning, upset that Help I'm Hurting was paying a salary to its executive director while many Harvey victims were waiting for help.
Nobody has ponies at parties these days.
The Hernandezes give new meaning to the term close-knit family. Esmeralda says she, her husband, and 3 children, 10 to 17-year-olds, have lived in the small Nederland trailer since Harvey destroyed their Port Arthur home. This is what's left of their house on Highland. The trailer they now call home has a bed in the living room because all of their possessions are crammed everywhere else.
We're not invited. Sob, sob.
Still, Esmeralda is doing the best she can to provide a normal life for her children. Her oldest daughter, Leslie, says it's not easy.
Sometimes we have to sleep all together, so it's just kind of hard to just get used to it.
Esmeralda reached out to the recovery nonprofit group Help I'm Hurting, based at the time at Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church in Port Arthur.
Ellos me dijeron que me iban a construir una casa.
They told me they were going to construct a house with 4 bedrooms because we are a family of 5, but nothing happened.
Nunca más me
They never called me back. Help I'm Hurting did not help. Case in point, the American Red Cross set up something called the Coordinated Assistance Network, or CAN. The goal to avoid duplication of services among nonprofits. Turns out a check of CAN records shows Help I'm Hurting closed the case as if the work on the Hernandez home were complete. But check it out, still just a crumbling shell.
Nothing's done under her name in CAN except enough to get her a CAN ID, and her case would be closed. That's not Red Cross's problem. That's not the people that set up. That's the case managers that are doing that. And so that's a problem.
Autumn Brown is the founder and executive director of the Southeast Texas Civilian Task Force, another recovery group that has rebuilt 3 homes in Jefferson County and has another 30 on the nonprofit's to-do list.
Thousands of people, and just Port Arthur alone, thousands of people. People that haven't even had the means to even begin gutting out their homes.
That's why Brown was so disappointed that Help I'm Hurting had a warehouse full of construction materials like roofing shingles, sheetrock, and appliances inside this building in downtown Port Arthur.
That's a long time for stuff to sit, especially when you have so many people in need. And so then I was made aware that stuff had been sitting there actually since last March.
More than a year.
More than a year.
And according to World Vision, the organization that donated the items, representatives say they have no idea how Help I'm Hurting acquired the relief supplies.
You know, the understanding was that this was not supplies that was just supposed to sit in a warehouse somewhere. These supplies were meant to get to people, to get them immediate aid and help and rebuild.
At that point, Brown reached out to Help I'm Hurting, signing a contract with the group to get building materials for her agency. But check out the invoice. It's been altered, reducing the quantity that Brown was supposed to get.
When we got back to pick those things up a couple of days later, then those numbers had changed, and so it started to lead me to question a few things.
Those questions led us to John McZeal, a 61-year-old father of a 21-year-old daughter who requires around-the-clock care.
We were homeless. Me and my baby was homeless.
Homeless because of Harvey. The storm flooded his home in the Montrose edition of Port Arthur. A helicopter had to rescue him and his daughter. These are pictures of that rescue. But more than a year and a half later, they have not been able to move back into their house.
I'm sleeping in a recliner. I don't know what it is, but you know, I would be so elated to come into my home, and sleep in a bed again, to have my daughter in her home, where she was raised at.
And just like the Hernandez family, McZeal received a promise from Help I'm Hurting to rebuild his house. The group gutted the home, making it worse, and never returned.
In fact, the people that was employed there is no longer there. And you know, you call a number and you don't get a response.
Help I'm Hurting's executive director is Cheryl Brewer, We first interviewed her in June of last year. She was touting the group's work.
We're busy bees. We have a lot of cases that we are working. We have probably about 7,000 cases that we're working.
But when the complaints started surfacing,
I was raised that your word is your bond.
finding Brewer became a challenge. We called her cell phone.
User busy again.
A worker told us she's no longer in town, so we went to the church, Mount Sinai, where Help I'm Hurting was based. No luck. But we did find coolers, ladders, wheelbarrows, and other materials exposed outside.
Music, but no one's answering the Help I'm Hurting line. This phone number that we just saw here on the truck, that's the number to call. We're trying to call it, just music's playing.
Since we first started our investigation into Help I'm Hurting, the nonprofit has shut down operations, leaving families in limbo.
Not a great feeling because we were depending on them to help us rebuild the house, but then it did not end up happening, so now we're here, crowded.
Late this evening, we heard from Mount Sinai Pastor Randy Vaughn, who started Help I'm Hurting. He told us he has not done anybody an injustice. He says the group has helped 700 to 1,000 homeowners. Pastor Vaughn says Help I'm Hurting has taken a hit because it follows the rules and laws, but he claims the group has been victimized by jealousy and envy in the community. And Vaughn says the program had to shut down because the Texas Workforce Commission was ending a program that provided caseworkers for Help I'm Hurting, and without that program, there would be no staff. Now, we do have good news to pass along. The Southeast Texas Civilian Task Force is looking at rebuilding the houses of both the Hernandez and McZeal families. Guys.
God bless y'all, man. Thank you.
Tears of joy replacing nearly 2 years of heartache for John McZeal, the 61-year-old single father of a 21-year-old daughter who requires around-the-clock medical care, lost his home to Harvey. Wednesday evening, he learned he would soon be back in it.
I'm here to tell you that we got approved for the funding to rebuild your family home.
It's been a struggle for McZeal and his special needs daughter. After the storm, the recovery group Help I'm Hurting offered to rebuild the damaged house. It gutted the home and never returned. Across town, Esmeralda Hernandez shared a similar experience. Help I'm Hurting promised to fix her house. Instead, her case was closed and the house still looks like this. She says her family of 5 has waited a long time. Help I'm Hurting eventually shut its doors. That's where Autumn Brown jumped into action. She and her husband, Chris, head up Southeast Texas Civilian Task Force.
It's about us all coming together and forgetting the bad stuff and just, you know, you have to get past it and move forward in a positive way, and I think that this is a very positive way to be moving forward.
Brown reached out to Samaritan's Purse. That organization is committed to rebuilding the Hernandez and McZeal homes.
Take a long, hard look, because it's not going to look like this anymore.
Motiva is adding the touches to turn the rebuilt houses into homes.
They gave us a grant for furniture.
The timing perfect for Hernandez. Port Arthur had red tagged the house for demolition. Now the Civilian Task Force is re-tagging it for restoration. Hernandez says a new house is something wonderful. McZeal is also overjoyed. He says after our first interview, when he explained Help I'm Hurting was not following through on its promises, the group sent representatives to his house, making another promise to rebuild. He's still waiting.
Tuesday of last week, they were supposed to meet me out here. They were, again, no shows. You heard me? No shows.
Now McZeal is confident Southeast Texas Civilian Task Force will restore his home and his hope.
A wonderful surprise to come home with my baby and then to know that eventually I'll be able to put her back in her home.
In Port Arthur, for The Morning Show, I'm Angel San Juan.